All right, good morning, everybody. It's Rabbi Kolakowski, the Koblenzer Rav, here with another video. There's been a lot of controversy on social media in New York and the Jewish social media about a video that appeared on the Facebook page of the Rockland County. Rockland County is the smallest county in New York State. It's just west of Westchester, really kind of just north of the city. It borders with New Jersey. It's pretty much like right over the George Washington Bridge. Like I said, west of the Tappan Zee Bridge, and as I said, it borders with New Jersey, and it borders with Orange County, New York. The video is referring to a storm is brewing. That's how it was presented. And the storm is the essentially represented as the overdevelopment and so forth by the ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities, the Hasidic communities in particular. And of course, the knee-jerk reaction a lot of people are having is this is anti-Semitism. Now, I'll just, some people might be seeing this video because they're searching for something about that other video. Obviously, you can tell by the way I'm dressed and my haircut and so forth. I'm a Hasidic Jew. I'm a rabbi. I serve as a chaplain, actually in Rockland County, in the Rockland Psychiatric Center. My wife and I both work as chaplains there, part-time. We have a contract with the state. And so I have a vested interest in Rockland County. Although my full-time position is actually in a different state, and I reside in a different county. And I also, for those who do watch my videos know I'm a very proud Republican. And a very outspoken Republican. And I was uncomfortable with President Trump before he became president, and since he's become president, he's been a pleasant surprise. I did vote for President Trump in the general election. I voted for Ted Cruz in the primary. It's been a few years now. It seems like yesterday, though. Although a lot has changed in my life for the better. I got my dream job, really. As much as I enjoy working in Rockland Psychiatric Center, that was just a part-time job. So there, I work there only once a week, and my wife goes there twice a week. And I got a full-time job as a chaplain in another state, a neighboring state, it's my dream job. Although it would be great if I could work in a federal prison, make more money. But it's a really great job that I have, where I'm actually the head chaplain in the prison, supervising all the different religions, which kind of proves that Hasidic Jews can work, in a multi-faith, multicultural setting. Now, as I said, I'm currently, and really have been, I'm kind of like a Glenn Beck type. I'm more very much libertarian or classical liberal in my political views, personally conservative, my cultural views. And as I said, I do support very strongly President Trump currently, even though I consider him, like I said, a pleasant surprise. One thing that I always said about President Trump, even before, is that he's almost like a one-man Hasidic community. What the Hasidic communities accomplish in their coalition building, their community organizing, is what President Trump did as an individual and as a business person when he was in the private sector, which was most of his life. People have seen a lot of my videos know that I eschew this term anti-Semitism, although I'll use it colloquially perhaps, but I do not like the term anti-Semitism because my view of Judaism is that it's first and foremost a religion. I do recognize there are different religious expressions of Judaism. I do recognize those expressions that I might personally disagree with to be religious. Many of them, like the Reform and the Conservative, certainly, even though they're different in the way I express myself, and even though many of the adherents to those communities I might disagree with politically, I do recognize them as expressing their Jewishness and in a religious fashion. I do not like this concept of someone being a secular Jew. We can discuss in halacha what that means in Jewish law, but both politically and in Jewish law, it's a very problematic thing. The only thing is that it's a big majority of those who self-identify as Jewish. And there is an issue in Jewish law that, the way I brand it is, I know a lot of people see it as that there are two categories in Jewish law. And I really feel that there are actually three categories. And that a heretic is not a Jew and not a Gentile. He has it's kind of intermediary level. Not really. It's something different. It's almost like I was watching a science video yesterday about the difference between exotherms and endotherms, and that they actually said, well, there's actually mesotherms as well. It's not quite the same in any manner, but the thing is that we often assume it's either or, and it could be neither, or it could be in a way both. The major difference, though, is there's nothing negative in the eyes of Judaism of being a Gentile, and there is something extremely negative in the eyes of Judaism of being a heretic who should be a Jew. But then there's a recognition of the reality of the world we live in, that we don't control other people, and if people choose to be in a different category by their beliefs or by their actions, it exists, whether we like it or not. Meaning, there's no issue in Judaism of someone not being Jewish. They weren't Jewish. They have a choice to convert if they want to. I personally believe it should be easier to convert than it is currently in most communities. I believe we should follow Jewish law when it comes to conversions instead of the politics that so many of the rabbis, particularly who are on the, who are being paid by the Israeli government to and their so-called chief rabbinate, the way they conduct themselves. And I do believe that does lead to people hating Jews, because a lot of people on the outside look at it as some kind of an exclusive club. And that actually, it goes back to ancient times, even pre-Sinai, that, if we push away potential converts too much, it leads to what we'll colloquially call anti-Semitism. Which is just an erroneous term altogether. But I want to get, I've already spoke for 10 minutes, so, for the sake of YouTube and things, let's consider this an introduction to this video, and we'll make a separate video, although we'll reiterate some of the main points about this video that is there in on this the GOP of Rockland County. I would like to say before I finish this video, I do not believe the video is anti-Semitic, and I'll explain that, because I don't believe in this concept of anti-Semitism. I don't believe in the concept of Semitism. I believe that Jews are a religion and not a race. I've said many times that I believe that, people who are perhaps, criticizing someone like George Soros or have wacky conspiracy theories about not Rockefeller, what are they called? Rothschild bankers, many of whom are not even halachically, Jews in the sense, even if they're, even as heretics, they're halachically not Jews, most of them who are of the, the bankers. There are pious, good Jews with the last name Rothschild, but the ones that the conspiracy theories are about, I don't know how many of them are actually Jewish in any way, according to the standards of halacha, and of any standards. Excuse me for my ums, it's early in the morning. And I've often said that I would prefer that and the other thing that I say is that a convert like Ivanka Trump, who maybe she's not perfect in everything she does, but she at least tries her best in a difficult situation to be observant, and she has a lot of pressures, but she makes the effort to ask a rabbi, can I do this, can I do that, which how many Jews do that? And she underwent a proper conversion, and I'm totally, my point is that Ivanka Trump is a million times more Jewish than a heretic like George Soros, who admits that, that his family were what he calls anti-Semites. Just because his mother is Jewish, it doesn't, I'm not saying he's a Gentile, but I am saying he's a heretic, and so he wouldn't count in a minyan. If he touches wine, it's not kosher. These aspects of being part of the Jewish community, he doesn't have any of the privileges of being part of the Jewish community. He still has the responsibilities to come back into the Jewish community that a Gentile is not responsible to do, although he's welcome to do. The Jewish heretic is responsible to do this in the eyes of Jewish law. But until he does so, he's excommunicated. That's pretty much, as opposed to someone like Ivanka Trump, who is a pious, Yes, modern Orthodox, not necessarily the way we do things in our communities, but a pious Jewish woman who's supportive of authentic Torah approach to Judaism and so forth. And to be honest, even if she were conservative Jewish instead of Orthodox, I would still say it would be along the similar lines. But there's some construction here again. So back to what we're discussing about this video from Rockland County. I reject this idea of anti-Semitism because it suggests that Jews are a race instead of a religion. And I would prefer that we use a term similar to how the Muslims speak about Islamophobia. We should speak of Judeophobia. And that, or a similar term that recognizes the religious, that recognizes that there's religious bigotry against Jews and against Judaism, as opposed to turning the Jewish community into some kind of a racial group that it never was and never will be. Meaning even from the very beginnings of when we became a distinct nation, in that sense that the scripture speaks of it, it was never based on race solely, because there was the Erev that came with us out of Egypt. There was a mixed multitude from many different nations, and some might even say, I've discussed before, non-human entities, whether biological or spiritual, I'm not sure, who also left Egypt with us and essentially became part of our nation. And that's really where a lot of these problematic issues that we have in the Jewish community come from these non-human entities that have essentially infiltrated or hybrid, perhaps partially human entities that have infiltrated our community. This is already in the Bible and in the Zohar and so forth, and anybody who wants to know more about that, I made other videos about this. I know a lot of people, once they hear that, are going to think I'm kind of a kooky conspiracy theorist, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is true, but I'm just saying that this is not necessarily what Scripture is saying, but this is what traditional Jewish interpretations of Scripture say. Namely, the Zohar, which is a Kabbalistic text, comments on the Bible, discusses such an infiltration, non-human or human hybrid, human alien hybrid, or otherwise hybrid infiltration into our community. And I think that's where a lot of these secularist forces and so forth are coming from this, and again, that's in our traditional texts. And again, you can interpret it in different ways. I'm not saying it's necessarily the right way to interpret it. I'm just saying it is one possible, for lack of a better term, kosher way of interpreting these texts. And I'm not saying that those beings are irredeemable. They could actually also be redeemable and serve God as well. I know Dr. Stephen Greer often says that we shouldn't refer to extraterrestrials as aliens. They are human like us. They are just biologically, they could be different. They could be from a different planet, but they're still created in the image of God the way we are. necessarily be, earthist, racist, planetist against these other beings. If it's even true, which I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it is possible, and a lot of people claim that people who have these, like, quote-unquote conspiracy theories are quote-unquote anti-Semitic. And again, whether these theories are true or not, and, obviously a lot of these things about the Rothschilds are just so ridiculously exaggerated and nonsense. But the point I bring them up is that it's not anti-Semitic, and so too, I'm not saying that necessarily David Icke's beliefs about lizard people and so forth are necessarily anti-Semitic in any way. I'm not saying they're true, but this knee-jerk reaction that these people must be anti-Semites it's ridiculous, and it's not true. And so too here with this video, and the video is definitely very problematic. Now there could be some Judeophobia though, or in general anti-general religious bigotry in David Icke's teachings. He does certainly have an aversion to religion in general, which I find to be problematic. But then again, it's more general and not specifically focused on Jews or Judaism, although to a certain extent it might be. And my point in bringing these subjects up is to say that it's there are sources that can be found in traditional Jewish texts that point to something similar along the lines of what someone like David Icke is proposing or claiming to be true. Not everything he's saying. A lot of his things are quite silly, but even a lot of those have sources in Jewish texts. And the big thing about Jewish texts is that you're going to find radically different views on everything, almost everything. The basics that there's one God. Everyone agrees, but even we could discuss what does that mean exactly. Does that mean that there are no other gods? What I think, what obviously it would mean is that if there were something else, other beings that people call gods, that our God is in a different category than any of those. I think that everyone could agree with. And most people would say that these quote-unquote other gods don't even exist at all. Although some might say they are misinterpreted demons or angels or something else that were mistakenly worshipped. And again, these are issues that we can discuss another time. This is not even really what I want to discuss at all. But again, back to this question of this video. Is this video Judeophobic? Is this video anti-Hasidic? We'll discuss that in the next video. I think there's another issue with that. It's certainly not anti-Semitic. It's not hating Jews in a racial sense. And it's not hating for a religion. But there's a different issue with this video. So let's watch my next one. It's really anti-Republican, and it's shocking that it's coming from a group calling themselves the Republican Party, and that's what's really the issue. So we'll make a separate video about that, because I've already gone on for 24 minutes, and it's not good to make long videos like this. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please do watch the next video where I'll discuss this a little bit more if you made it this far. Thank you for watching. Take care.